All right. So, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order. Time is 4:07 p.m. Wednesday, January 18th, 2023. Um, as a reminder, please note that board meetings are being recorded for the convenience of those unable to attend this video conference. A recording and closed captioning of this meeting will be posted to the BERS YouTube channel following the meeting. Alex, could you please call the roll?
Certainly. Tazeen Azad, Aaron Bogard, Janelle Chacon.
Present.
Thank you. Lily Chan. Thank you. Marjorie Dienstag. Thank you. Carrie Edwards.
Present.
Thank you. Gregory Faulkner.
Present.
Thank you. Anita Garcia. Cherie Gibson.
Present.
And thank you. Anthony Giordano. Angela Green. Naveed Hassan. Allison Hirsch.
Allison Hirsch here for Controller Brad Lander. I may have to step out before the meeting ends, in which case my alternate John Dorsa will take my place.
Thank you. Michelle Joseph. Ruth Maria Kenley.
Present.
Thank you. Jessamine Lee. John Maderick. Donald Nesbitt.
Present.
Thank you. Alan Ong.
Present.
Thank you. Phoebe Sade Arnold. Kaliri Salas Ramirez.
Present.
Thank you. Mahisha Sapp.
Present.
Thank you. Sarita Scott.
Present.
Thank you. Thomas Shepard.
Present.
Thank you. Gladys Ward. And Ephraim Zachary.
Okay, Alex, do we have a quorum?
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Alex. So the first item on the agenda is calendar item number 1, noting of the minutes of the meeting of the Board of Retirement held on December 20th, 2022. May I have a motion to consider?
So moved.
Thank you, Greg. May I have a second, please?
And Gladys.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Gladys. When I call out all in favor, if you wish to vote in favor of approving the minutes, please unmute yourself and respond in favor. Similarly, if you wish to oppose or abstain from the vote, please unmute yourself and respond accordingly when I call out any opposed or any abstentions. All in favor of approving the minutes for December 20th, 2022, please respond in favor. In favor, Tom.
In favor, Greg.
In
favor, Donald Nesbitt.
In favor, Alan.
favor, Maria.
Favor Allison.
In favor, Sarita Scott.
Favor Marjorie Dienstag.
Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Hi, I was on mute. This is Lily Chan. I don't know if you saw that I was present for the meeting but did we get the minutes? Did we get a copy of it? This is my first meeting.
So any trustees who were on the board as of last Friday would have gotten a copy of the minutes.
Okay.
For those of you who were sworn in yesterday, no.
Thank you.
So any opposed or any abstentions?
This is Effie Zachary. It's Ephraim Zachary. I go by Effie usually. I abstain only for the reason that I have not received the minutes and I had no chance to review them, so I can't vote one way or the other.
Thank you, Effie. Are there any other abstentions?
Another abstention, please.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, we should know
Another
Tony
abstention. Tony
Giordano's
Giordano.
joined.
Thank you, Tony.
Yep.
And Lily Chan abstains for the same reason. I don't have the minutes, and I don't believe I'm sworn in yet. I was sworn, not for BERS.
There is only one swearing in.
Oh, okay. So then I abstain for not
Thank you.
having the minutes. Thank you.
Same here. Carrie Edwards, I abstain.
Thank you. So, I didn't keep track of how many abstentions.
4 abstentions, Chair.
Thank you, Alex. So you had your hand raised, Gladys? I can't hear you. You were muted.
Sorry, I'm counting for you. I said 4.
Thank you, Gladys. Thank you, Alex. So I will say we did have a majority of people vote in favor, but we did have no abstention, no opposed, and 4 abstentions. Is that fair enough for everyone? All right. Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is the executive director's update. Sandy, do you have any remarks for us? You're muted, Sandy.
I thought it was a pro. So thanks, Tom. Staffing update, hiring remains a challenge with little change over the holidays. We still have 6 open headcount, and we have anticipated at least 2 more rolling off in the next few days. We'll see if turnover increases again now and as the holidays are ending. I suggest that is a distinct possibility, and we keep our nose to the grindstone on hiring. It's a very significant priority. Room 101 at 65 Court Street is in operation. For those folks who are new, we have 2 locations, 55 Water Street, the 50th floor, and 65 Court Street. Our 65 Court Street operation is our counseling and documents management center. We recently moved our counseling efforts from the 16th floor to new accommodations on the 1st floor in room 101. We're actually planning to receive the Chancellor during his February 6th visit to 65 Court Street, and looking forward to that. Want to thank Soraya Buckler, BERS Facilities Manager, and Paul Gallagher and his team at 65 Court for their efforts to position our counselors in an attractive new location, which will enhance member access. The budget cycle was launched last week. Fiscal 2024 budget is begun. There was a memo detailing some of the many changes at BERS over the last 7 years. This was included in the board package for this meeting. This memo will also become a component of the trustee onboarding package. New PEP members will be very excited to see this, I'm sure. We've begun to distribute it already. Daniel Miller will be making a presentation tonight, providing more details around the context of our budget over the last 7 years and rolling into the coming 2024 budget proposal, which will be a few months away. Meeting highlights tonight, you will be electing new co-chairs, executive and disability committee members. A day as a Philly will update the board with the semi-annual internal audit report, and investment strategy will be detailing and attempting to get approval for the excluded securities list and report on quarterly investment performance and commitments made out of the investment portfolio as an update. Finally, I want to give a list of some educational opportunities that are coming in the next quarter. January 22nd, NYCBERS is operating a legislative conference in Washington, D.C. This is aligned with a pension communications summit in Washington, D.C. We expect to have member communications unit representatives at this event. February 7th, from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., the National Association of Securities Professionals will have its 25th annual Wall Street Hall of Fame reception at UFT headquarters at 52 Broadway, New York City. We can watch John Dorsett be given an award. Very exciting to know a Wall Street Hall of Famer. February 8th. February 8th, Axia, our alternates consultant, will have a client conference in New York. This is an opportunity to get good training on alternates in a local venue. More information to come on that. March 14th, Markets Group will have its 10th annual Tri-State Institutional Forum, another New York City-based conference opportunity. You'll actually be able to come to that and see a couple of BERS and New York City BAM individuals making presentations. March 23rd to 26th, Siegel Marco, our regular investment consultant, has a client conference in Las Vegas. And recently, I shared an email from the Museum of American Finance that will be sponsoring events through the first quarter of 2023. I would highlight only one of those. They have a series of financial educations events for adults, retirement from A to Z. It's 3 or 4 events. I have found them to be quite beneficial. And then finally, should you be interested in financial history and financial fraud and bubbles, the New York City Public Library has sponsored Fortune and Follies in 1720, a display of scripophily and art related to some of the most dramatic financial disasters in history. This installation is on display until February 19th in the Schwartzman Hall. And just to remind everyone that BERS will cover any costs related to these opportunities, and we would be happy to assist in organizing any participation. You can reach out to Karen Wong or to me for any help or if you have any questions. That's quite a bit for me, Tom, but that's enough.
Okay.
Tom, Co-Chair, I have a Co-Chair Tom, I have a question.
Yeah,
May I?
please.
Sandy, thank you so much for outlining the training for the upcoming quarter. I think it would be helpful for the trustees, especially those new trustees that joined, to know which of these trainings would probably be most beneficial to a new trustee, to get a foundation, you know, as for trustees' responsibilities, because some of us did have the opportunity last year, for example, to go to the NCBERS in, was it Washington? Was it Washington, right?
Yes.
It was.
Washington, D.C. So you just laid out a lot of opportunity, but it would be helpful just to, you know, narrow down, you know, which you think probably they could most benefit from to help bring them up to speed with the responsibilities and the foundation of being a financial trustee. And you don't have to do it now, but just trying to help all out.
I will, over the next few weeks and months, I will approach harassment in our efforts to get you involved. Definitely. Thanks, Gladys.
Thank you.
So yeah, I just wanted to say, Gladys, thank you for that. Thank you for the update, Sandy. I do want to also just say also thank you, Sharon, for making sure that our new trustees have board packets, so you know, they're able to follow what it is we're doing today. Thank you. And I will say the next items on this afternoon's agenda are calendar items 2 through 17, the ordinary business of BERS. May I have a motion to consider calendar items 2 through 17?
So Tom, I have a question, which actually is for the lawyer, for Alex. If we were to vote to adopt the agenda, would we have to have a motion for each to consider each item as we move forward, just in a matter of time?
I'm sorry, I don't think I understand the question. You mean you're talking about the ordinary business, or?
Before we do any kind of business, we always ask for a motion to consider. And I'm just wondering, if we were to adopt the agenda early in the meeting, would we have automatically approved all these things so we don't have to vote each time to approve the agenda item?
Oh, I see what you're saying. And so then you would only need a motion and a second in case
In the
someone was
beginning, we
adding
just
something.
adopt the agenda,
Yeah,
and then
I
everything just
understand.
proceeds instead of having to stop each time and then vote
Okay.
to consider.
All right.
Just want to, you know, get a.
Greg, I'm sorry, I'm not a parliamentarian. I can happily look into this, and I'll tell you what, I don't think any of your colleagues will object. So if we can do this, we will adopt it at the next meeting.
That's fine. I'm just saying, just as a matter of time to move the meeting and.
I completely understand.
Yeah. Okay.
If we can do this, we'll adopt it as of the next meeting.
Great. Thank you. I'm sorry,
Thank you.
Chair.
Thank you for the suggestion.
Sure. Sorry, Chair.
Okay. No problem. No problem. So
move to consider this.
thank you, Co-Chair Nesbitt. May I have a second, please?
Second, Greg.
Thank you, Greg. Alex, could you please tell us about the ordinary business of BERS?
Certainly. These are all the retirements, death benefits, and refunds that have been processed since the last meeting of this board.
Thank you, Alex. We will now vote on these items. All in favor of approving calendar items 2 through 17, please indicate your approval. I approve, Tom.
I approve, Greg.
I approve, Gladys.
Donald.
I approve
I
Marjorie.
approve Maria Kinley.
I approve Tony.
Thank you. Any opposed?
I approve, Allison. Sorry, I said that late. I don't oppose. I approve. I just spoke late. Apologies.
Thank you, Allison.
Same for Sarita Scott. I hope you
I
caught
got
my approval. Thank you so much.
All right. So is anyone opposed? And are there any abstentions? Okay, I see your hand, Effie.
I'm abstaining for the same reason I couldn't vote on the minutes.
Understood, Carrie.
I abstain for the reason that I just got the material literally like minutes ago. Absolutely no chance to even know what you're talking about.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Are there any other abstentions?
I abstain, Lily.
Thank you, Lily. Any other abstentions?
Yeah, Co-Chair Shepherd.
Yes.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Is it possible that as we go through these items, that somebody, Alex, actually explains what are calendar items 2 through 17, so they actually understand it for the new trustees that's coming on?
Absolutely, Alex. I know we
Certainly. So
just as a kind of a high level just said, you know, retirements, refunds, and death benefits. Do you mind just take a moment and explaining that to our new trustees? Thank you.
I'd be happy to, of course. So, and by the way, every trustee will also receive a one-on-one introduction to everything that BERS does from me and Sandy. But this is more than just a pension administrator. We also give death benefits to employees who die in service and also retirees, and in some cases vested members. We also handle disability claims for our enrolled members. And all of these benefits, in order to be finalized, formally require the approval of this board. Therefore, every month when the board meets, we have everything bundled together, and it is approved in one go as calendar items 2 through 17. Now, it's a large number of items because technically there are different types of benefits included in this. So, for example, there are refunds of various amounts of refunds of contributions for members who might not be eligible for a death benefit. There are refunds of contributions for members who are retiring later than expected, so their early retirement contributions become refundable. There are retirements in the different tiers. There are disability retirements. There will be TDA death benefits and refunds and so on and so forth. So each of these different categories of benefits is calendared as a separate item, but they go before the board in one bundle. I hope this is helpful. Happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Alex. Does anyone have any questions for Alex? Okay, very good. All right, so we will now vote on these items, right? Calendar items 2 through 17. All in favor of approving calendar items 2 through 17, please indicate your approval.
Aye, Allison.
Clearest.
Aye, Alan.
Yeah,
Aye,
Gladys.
Marjorie?
Thank you. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, I see your hand again, Effie.
Yeah, do we use hands or do we vocally speak out when we I don't know how the procedures are done here.
Earlier I said, you know, just unmute yourself and state your position, whether it's you approve, opposed, or abstain.
All right, so Effie Zachary, I abstain. Again,
Thank
for
you.
the reason that I'm not familiar with what the details
Fair
are.
enough. Are there
Lily,
any
I
other?
abstain. Thank you.
Okay, Lily, I got you.
Thank you, Tom.
Any other abstentions? Carrie again, but I abstained earlier, but I'll abstain again.
Yeah, because we're recording it. You know, like they have to be stated because they get they get recorded and then they're made available on the YouTube channel. So I think folks need to know, how we voted. So thank you, Carrie. I appreciate it. Okay, so with that said, we had what? It was 3 or 4 again, Alex, abstentions.
I think I heard 3.
Okay. So the motion carries. I'll say everybody voted to approve with 3 abstentions. The next item on the agenda is calendar item 18, appointment of a trustee to the Comptroller's Strategic Accountability and Tactical Review Oversight Committee. May I have a motion to consider?
So moved.
Thank you, Greg. May I have a second, please?
Second, Donald.
Thank you, Donald. So the board is requested to appoint a trustee to the STAR Oversight Committee. This agenda item was tabled at the last board meeting. But Allison, I would love if you could take a moment, please, and either refamiliarize the trustees that were here last month and bring our new trustees up to speed on what the Strategic Accountability and Tactical Review Oversight Committee is. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chair Shepherd. So some of you may know, some of you may not know, it's folks who are new, but the controller, the city controller as Bureau of Asset Management, serves as the investment advisor and the custodial to the 5 New York City pension funds, including BERS. So in that capacity, the Bureau of Asset Management staff and team are here to be responsive to and invest on behalf of the trustees of the 5 systems. There are about 130 or so staff when fully staffed managing the program. Every few years, you always want to do an assessment of how that team is doing, whether it's structured efficiently and effectively. In 2015, the prior controller issued something called the Funston Report to analyze the operations and investment processes of the Bureau of Asset Management. The Controller's Office put forward a number of, hundreds actually, of recommendations for how to improve the processes, et cetera. Many of those were implemented. When Controller Lander got elected and had conversations with trustees and with staff, there was a real desire to do another sort of an update on that 2015 report, with one major difference. And that difference being the 2015 report was done without any trustee engagement or involvement, and was very sort of inward looking to the operations of Bureau of Asset Management. And what we're calling the Strategic and Tactical Accountability Review is meant to be a project in partnership with trustees to really look at how the BAM operations and staff are most effectively serving trustees and beneficiaries. And so the Oversight Committee is made up of a subset of trustees from across the 5 systems that goal has been meeting monthly will be meeting monthly. That Oversight Committee will help will finalize the scope of the oversight review, will identify and have final approval over the outside consultant who is hired to perform said review, and then will provide an oversight, will be an oversight body throughout the review, and somebody representative will represent the needs and issues of each of the 5 systems over the course of the review. So that is sort of the overview. There was a memo that was circulated to all the trustees that I can ask Alex or Karen, or I can recirculate it myself to the new folks if you haven't gotten it. But that is the body that we are discussing.
Thank you, Allison. So before I open it up to questions, I have one question. And the question I have is, I want to say for the record, thank you for meeting with co-chair Nesbitt and I to really kind of get a better understanding of what this was about. And So my question is, and just for the sake of being clear here, the purpose of this committee is to really take a deep dive into how BAM services this board or the systems, all 5 systems, right? And we're really just making sure that, as you stated, previously there wasn't any input from the trustees of the systems when it came to what that process looks like for BAM. So I just wanted to make sure, like, that's what we're talking about. Am I correct?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I see Greg's hand up. Greg, you have a question?
Yeah, just a quick follow-up. I know that part of the concern when we asked the 2 co-chairs to sort of meet was that the co-chairs and the leadership here had a comfort level with being part of this. And so I was just wondering if you guys would make a comment with regard to our participation.
Sure. Co-chair Nesbitt, would you like to take a moment?
I was just going to chime in. There were, at the last meeting, there were some questions that I had circulated and asked in regards to this, sort of the governance structure of the boards actually being discussed, and so on and so forth. Some of the things that I saw in the first proposal. After meeting with Allison, Tom and I feel comfortable now, Greg, to your question. And moving forward with someone representing us there at this STAR committee, as long as we keep within the parameters of what was actually discussed, where they're looking at interactions between the BAM staff and the trustees at BERS. So I'm fine, Greg.
Great, thank you both for doing that last week. Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Are there any other questions? Okay, so at this point, we are, okay, so next item, yeah, so, oh, did I already go past myself where I said, may I have a motion to consider?
No, well, do we need nominees or?
Yeah, I think what we're gonna do is there a volunteer, right? Or nomination, to join or be the BERS representative on the STAR Oversight Committee.
Can I just ask a question of the chair,
Yes.
Donald and Tom, the chairs? One of the issues that came up in the conversation last week, that in the other boards, you had rightfully noticed that we had specifically asked that labor be represented on the oversight committee, the labor trustees be the representatives, because the mayor's office of pension investments represents the mayor's office on each of the 5 on the 4 other boards, and the head of that office would be on this oversight. And there was some discussion of that maybe that should either be a labor or a non-mayoral appointee given that representation, and I didn't know whether that's something that you wanted to discuss as part of the nomination process, or you wanted to keep it open to everybody.
Well, Allison, I was just about to nominate somebody, so I think
I'll
it's
nominate.
an issue. I was
Apologies.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so you had
nomination in
something,
order?
Tony?
Yeah, I would nominate Don Nesbitt.
I would second that.
Y'all beat me to it.
Yeah, I mean, so resolve that. We were just about to. I think that we were all thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Acclamation.
So, so I guess that part said, right? All in favor of co-chair Nesbitt joining the STAR Oversight Committee, please indicate your approval.
Aye, Greg.
Aye, Tony.
Aye, Tom.
Hi, Sheree.
I
Hi,
don't.
I
Clearance.
Carrie Edwards.
Hi, Sarita Scott.
Alan.
I'm
Hi,
Maria
Glenn.
See you later.
All right. Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions?
This is Allison. I'm going to abstain, not because I don't support this nomination, but because it's awkward for me to put an opinion into the record.
Fair enough. That's fair. So the motion passes with 1 abstention from Allison. Thank you, Co-Chair Nesbitt for volunteering to represent BERS on the STAR Oversight Committee. All right, so our next matter of business is in attorney-client session. May I have a motion to enter attorney-client session?
So moved.
Thank you, Greg. May I have a second, please?
Seconded.
Who said second? I'm sorry.
Tony Giordano.
Thank you, Tony. All in favor of entering attorney-client session? I approve. Tom?
I,
Greg.
Hi, Clears.
Hi,
I
Sarita
approve,
Scott.
Karen.
Hi, Effie
Michael.
Zachary.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes unanimously. Karen, please turn off the recording and move members of the board, BERS Executive Management, the BERS Legal Department, and New York City Law Department into a breakout room. The rest of the attendees may remain in this room until the attorney-client session is over.
Okay, sure. Give me a few moments to take care of that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Recording has resumed. Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you very much. So the next item on the agenda is calendar item 19, election of co-chairs of the Board of Trustees. May I have a motion to consider?
so move.
Thank you, Donald. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Who said second?
Tony Giordano.
Thank you, Tony. So each year we elect co-chairs to preside over the board's proceedings during the calendar year. Are there any nominations for co-chair? So I know that one of our co-chairs is usually.
Tom, I'd like to nominate you as the person that I met in this position. I'd like to continue that relationship since I'm new, if I'm allowed to do that. And
You are absolutely allowed to do that. And thank
I
you,
believe
Karen.
Donald is the other co-chair as well.
Yeah, I think that's how it works, right?
That's correct, Carl. So
I'd like to nominate you to, just based off of so far how this meeting has been running.
I second both.
Thank
Alex,
you.
do we need one at a time for this?
For right now, let's just see if we have, you know what, let's just see if we have any other nominations. And then we can take votes on every nomination.
Okay, Effie, I see your hand.
Yeah, may I ask a couple of questions? Again, like all the new people here, we got nothing. Like I know nothing about the procedure. Is there a term limit for people who have served before? Do the two co-chairs, do they have to run as a slate, or do they run independently? A little bit of color on what's going on here.
Sure, yeah. So, Tom, would you like to start or should I?
Alex, you could give some context here. We do elect co-chairs every year. So with that part, Alex, if you wanted to take some time, please, and explain this process.
Right. So first of all, Effie and everyone else who's now here, we apologize that there wasn't an opportunity to prepare you for this meeting, and we really appreciate that you attended on such short notice. We found out about your appointments basically this morning, so we didn't really have an opportunity ourselves. We will be meeting one-on-one with each of you to get you up to speed, and we will remain at your disposal whenever you need us. So I just want to get that out of the way. Now, institutionally here, there are no term limits for chairs. This position is largely exactly what you see right now. In other words, it's a very selfless position, right? You're there, you kind of run the meeting, you have to make sure that things are happening procedurally correctly and so forth. It doesn't really come with any substantive authority. I just want, the chair doesn't get more of a vote and doesn't have any more rights to introduce things and so forth, right? For a long time, we have observed a kind of power sharing structure where we have two chairs. This is strictly not necessary. So for example, someone could nominate a slate of simply one chair if they wanted to. But this has generally been helpful because it means that they can sort of swap off chairing the meeting, so the burden is less on one person. There are no term limits on this, but generally speaking, new chairs are elected every January. Of course, if a chair resigns or rotates off the board before the end of their term, there can be an additional election, a special election to replace the chair. Have I touched on everything that you needed? Please, I would say that it is not strictly necessary for them to run as a slate. However, that might be a convenient way to organize it in terms of presenting the nominations. I don't think there's a limit to how many nominations could be put out there. So, you know, you could put out different combinations or permutations involving the same candidates.
Is financial experience and acumen helpful to the position or not really?
Well, I would say the position is largely logistical. All right. So I don't think the exact background is as important as the level of commitment to being at every meeting or almost every meeting. This is, I think, probably the most important thing is just the level of commitment. That's it. Now, maybe I should mention, if you would like to make best use of your financial experience, one thing that you might want to consider is the executive committee. We will be asking for volunteers for the executive committee later during the same meeting. And that's, I think, a fantastic way for trustees to contribute also.
Okay, so thank you. So we have two nominees. We have myself and Donald Nesbitt. Let's see.
If there are no others, I would move to close nominations.
Thank you, Greg. So if there are no other nominations, we have to vote. So let's vote on Donald and myself as co-chairs of the board for 2023.
Hi, Tony.
Hi, Greg.
Okay, let's get to it. All right.
Hi, Donald.
All right.
Hi, Caleres.
Hi, Janelle.
Hi,
Gladys.
Lily.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Sheree.
Hi, Sarita.
All
Hi,
right.
Madre.
I made the
Possible
motion,
to
so I don't have
call
to do it again.
acclamation?
Right?
Right, call acclamation, and if there's
Yeah.
no objectors, we move.
Right. That
Robert's rules.
sounds about right. Are there
They're in.
any opposed or abstentions? All right, so the motion is carried. So congratulations, co-chair Nesbitt.
Congratulations, Tom. And thank you all for your confidence in our ability to co-chair at BERS. Thank you.
And yes, thank you. All right, so the next item on the agenda is calendar item number 20. This is election of members to the executive committee. May I have a motion to consider, please?
So move, Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
Second it, Gladys.
Thank you, Gladys. All right, so the purpose of the executive committee is to provide oversight of BERS assets, strategy, and investment guidelines, represent the Board of Trustees at investment meetings held by the Comptroller's Bureau of Asset Management, authorize certain types of investment decisions, provide oversight of BERS budget matters, perform related functions as designated by the full board. The board is requested to elect 5 members and an equal number of alternate members to serve on the executive committee during the calendar year 2023. The committee must include the chancellor's designee and both employee members of the board. Are there any questions from the board?
So there are 2 seats available. for
No,
election.
are we electing all of them now, right?
But
3 of these seats are ex officio. So really, there's 2 principals and 2 alternates.
okay, yeah. So can I be recognized, Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I currently serve on the executive board. I'm going to step off the executive board, and I'd like to then, when it's appropriate, make a nomination.
Please.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'd like
actually,
to.
before we do that, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Alex, I gave a very kind of like high level overview. Do you mind just explaining this perhaps in a little more detail for our newest trustees?
Yes, of course. And I'm going to cover the basics, and I'm going to ask Antonio Rodriguez, our Director of Investment Strategy, also to add anything that I may miss here. So the Executive Committee's principal function is to support with regard to review of investments. The board, as you see, is a large board. It can be somewhat of a challenge in some cases to make quorum on short notice, but sometimes investment decisions must be made on short notice. So we have an executive committee which has received a delegation from this board, most recently renewed in December, to make certain types of investment decisions independently and report on them to the full board. That is to say, certain types of investments within certain limits, re-ups, investments below certain amounts, and so on and so forth. We will, if you're new to the board, we will share all of these parameters with you about the exact limits of the executive committee's jurisdiction. So the executive committee has the authority to approve certain investments on its own. It also is given the brief of reviewing certain investments that it doesn't have the authority to approve, just for the purpose of making a recommendation to the full board. Additionally, the executive committee, so it kind of does the legwork and is more hands-on than the full board, because otherwise the board meetings, the monthly board meetings, would go on for a full day. Now, the executive committee also has a hands-on role with the budget development process. We're going to go into our budget cycle soon. And from time to time, there may be other responsibilities that come up for the executive committee. It's basically a way for the board to delegate certain responsibilities while keeping them within the board, but being able to make certain meetings on short notice. That's the basics of it. Antonio?
Absolutely. And I was going to, when we do the report out later today, although with the timing, we may have to wait next month, give you the parameters. And Alex described the basics, but this was actually something that happened out of real, real kind of stress and strain of the board. When we were meeting in person, we went several months sometimes on meeting quorum, but certain investments, particularly in the private markets, have quick closing time. So on a monthly basis. And so, getting quorum for them, and it costs BERS real money, and not being able to make those closes. And so the board decided that for those smaller, so those decisions, the executive committee would have authority. Right now, the limits are up to $50 million in private market investments and up to $250 million in public market investments. And then if the executive committee decides to move forward with an index fund, so a passive investment strategy, they have the authority to do that. Anything above 50 million in private markets or 250 in public markets would go to the full board. And to give you an idea, our portfolio is about $8 billion, to give you a rough estimate of the actual total corpus amount. In addition, the executive committee serves as the proxy committee. And so twice a year, the Bureau of Asset Management, led by their Office of Shareholder Engagement and Corporate Governance, gives a presentation on their shareholder engagement plan and the proxy guidelines. The executive committee serves as the proxy committee in that regard. Everything else, so asset allocation, the hiring of investment consultants, that still all goes to the full board of trustees. Of course, the executive committee many of the discussions will still happen at the executive committee. All members of the board are, of course, invited to all of those meetings, typically on the third Thursday from 1 to 3 p.m. In addition, certain members of the executive committee represent SPERS at a joint meeting with the New York City Employees Retirement System, where they hear manager presentations. That's very helpful to not see multiple presentations. So we work with NYCBERS in the Bureau of Asset Management for manager presentations on a monthly basis. That's typically the third Wednesday. So the executive committee, as Sandy put, it meets monthly, 2 hours in the afternoon. And occasionally, if we need additional time for either special meetings in short notice, additional briefings. The meeting itself it's an additional meeting a month. And if you come to the joint manager meeting with NYCBERS, that can be another additional, call it 3 hours a month. And happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I do want to say, since John Maderick, Donald Nesbitt, and the Chancellor's designee are automatically on this committee and each have alternates, we will need 2 additional volunteers and an alternate for each of those volunteers. Is this a nomination process or a volunteer process?
I think we can, it can be whatever the board wants, but I think it makes sense to call for volunteers, given that this is a significant commitment. I think it makes sense to call for volunteers.
Fair enough. So are there any volunteers?
Any
to
volunteers?
serve? All right, hang on. So
Hi.
that was okay. Tony, and who else?
This is Allison. I volunteer to serve as either a member or an alternate. I also, this is not pertinent to this conversation, but it just came to my attention there was a massive misunderstanding earlier about I either misspoke or misheard on a prior comment I made. And I want to be clear that I support Donald serving on the STAR committee. I was simply abstaining since it was my committee and proposal on the board. So I think that was misunderstood earlier, and I want to clarify it for the record.
Yeah, Allison, I thought you said you don't support Donald. I was like, wow, I got into something good.
Yeah, I said, while I support Donald serving in this role, I'm going to abstain. And clearly, multiple people have told me that that was not what people heard. And I just wanted to very clearly clarify that for the record.
Thank you, Allison. I appreciate, and I'm sure we all appreciate that clarification. So
I just wanted, this is Cherie. I'm just having it, Allison. Some of us heard and understood clearly what you said, and that's. So I just want to give that other side that not a bunch of us thought you weren't support. We heard clearly what you said. So I just want to put that other side there.
Thank you, Cherie. Appreciate it.
Shepherd is I didn't hear. I've broken up. What is the committee that we're talking about? Just to clarify.
Janelle, we are speaking to, we're asking for volunteers for the executive committee, and so far I have Tony and I have Allison.
Is this for an alternate or is this for an actual? Because I wouldn't mind being an alternate, and I was going to throw my girl Gladys, asking if she wanted to be an alternate too and nominate her, but I can see her face. I don't want her to get beat me up. So.
All right, so I have.
So
Cherie will nominate, not nominate, volunteer.
I'm sorry, who was that?
Cherie.
Cherie.
Okay, so Cherie, are you volunteering to be a member or an alternate?
Either one. I believe Greg's alternate right now, so either one.
No, I'm actually a member, so I'll step back, and then you can become the member, and I'll become an alternate.
Okay.
If that works, if that fills the number.
I've been raising my hand for a long time. I also wanted to. I was going to nominate Tony actually, but I would also like to volunteer. I think I have a good financial experience that might be of benefit in this case. Effie Zachary, by the way.
Okay, would that be as in a member or an alternate?
Member.
All right. So I'm going to read what I have, right? Because I've got a lot here. So I have Tony and Allison. I have I have Carrie. I have
only as an alternate though.
I have Carrie as an alternate. I have, let's see, Effie as a member, and I have Cherie as a member, Greg as an alternate. So right now we have 3 groups. So
I think we have to.
Point of clarification.
Yes.
Do alternates attend meetings? As I, this is an area of
Absolutely.
interest for me. So alternates
Yes.
can attend all the requisite meetings, are informed of all meetings. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, Tom, can I just jump in for a second? The
Yes,
alternate
Alex.
really has 2 functions, right? The first function is that an alternate is able to step in the absence of a member. And when it comes to these elected members, the alternates are, you might say, at large. So either alternate of the elected members can fill in for either of the absent elected members. So this helps us to make quorum. The other function is to step in and become the member of the committee in the event that one of the members resigns from the committee or rotates off the board. Beyond that, all board members are welcome at all committee meetings. It's just that your presence wouldn't count towards quorum and that you wouldn't have a vote. But all members are welcome at all committee meetings. All members of this board, I mean, are welcome at all meetings of every committee of this board.
Mr. Chair, I just have one question.
Yes.
Gladys, did you want to accept my nomination as an alternate or no?
No.
Oh,
No.
Okay. Thank you. So, I think it might be helpful here to perhaps start with the alternates, because it looks like we have 3 of each, right? And what we are voting for are 2 alternates and 2 members. So I will start with the alternates. We have Greg, we have Carrie, and we have, what we didn't determine was whether Tony or Allison, were you going to be the member or the alternate?
I'd like to be a member if possible.
Either.
I would like to be the member if possible, but you know, I listen. I believe in collegiality, so let's figure it out.
Okay,
I
I'm
think-
with you. So,
maybe it would be better to elect the member first, and then of those who aren't elected, they might want to become alternates. I think we should elect the full member of the
Okay.
committee first, and then get a result, elect those 2 individuals, and then of those who remain, this might want to be.
Okay. I mean,
an
either
alternate.
way,
Yeah.
because the only reason why I say that is because we had like 3 and 3, but if you want, we can do the members first, and then whoever wasn't elected, if you care to serve as an alternate, we can just choose from a larger pool of alternates.
That
everybody
is fine.
okay with that?
Point of order, I just want to clarify. I thought we had 2 positions open and then Greg created the 3rd position, didn't he?
I'm stepping off the board, so there's 2, that makes 2 positions open.
So we had only 1 before?
No, there are 5 positions altogether, right? And you have the 2 labor members and the chancellor's designee who are automatic members. So what that leaves are 2 members, 2 alternates. So that's what we're voting on. So they're automatic members here, and then what's left is what we're voting on. So we're going to be picking 4 people out of a group of 6. So that's where we are. So I got Tony as a member, I have Effie as a member, and I have Cherie as a member. So I think this might be easier if you want to start Oh gosh, this is going to be a little tricky,
We-
Alex. Maybe you can help me with this. Like, I
Yeah.
think we might have to go down the list and
Yeah.
have everybody pick two.
Sure, whatever is the clearest. Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever is the clearest.
Okay. Is it possible, Alex, if we can go down the roll and have people identify two folks?
Certainly, Chair. So if I understand you correctly, what you would like me to do is call roll, and each trustee on the roll will propose two members and two alternates that they would like to put their vote
Well,
behind.
we're gonna do the members
Oh,
first,
sorry, we're doing members first. Okay, so
right?
I'm going to
Because
call
who's
the
left
roll.
can go into the alternate pool.
Right,
Should we not
understood.
should we not each speak for a minute or two about what we have as experience relevant to the position?
Okay, yeah. I mean, if folks want to take a moment, you raised the point, Effie. So if you want to go first.
I defer to others to go first. If Tony or Cherie want to go first, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, this is a labor of love for me. So I'm excited to participate. This is the world I live in. I've been around the New York City pensions since I was a young guy. It's my industry, and I believe that the power of the pensions is vital to this city and can be really utilized to assist and grow our communities, particularly for people of color. I'm particularly interested in ETI, which I think is vital, a vital way for us to impact the city as we benefit our pensioners. I think also the other thing that I know historically, as a whole, the NYCBERS pension system hasn't addressed or hasn't looked closely at and kind of let the money managers handle it is minority brokerage. I think it's using minority firms and making sure that we follow certain minimums like or certain quotas like other funds do. So again, I have some expertise here. I am collegial. I will offer any help I can to anybody else, and I'm ready to serve.
Thank you, Tony. I have just a quick quorum check. How many members do we have present?
One moment, Chair. I believe we have 17 present.
Thank you. So thank you, Tony. Effie, you're up.
So I went to college. I got a degree from Columbia University in mathematics and computer science, and went to Courant, which is part of NYU, to study for graduate school. I got a degree in mathematical finance, which is like kind of like financial engineering. And ever since I graduated, I've been working in the finance industry. I worked for various hedge funds, asset manager, market makers. So I have a lot of experience in finance and in asset management. I was a head trader in several places. I have a lot of operational experience, some litigation experience that was brought up before. So finance is an area I'm very comfortable in. I've been doing it for many years, and I think my experience here would be useful in terms of like supervising what our various personnel are doing. I supervise, traders, risk managers, legal team, accountants, things like that. So I think it would be helpful to have someone with a strong financial background in this on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Effie. Cherie, you're up.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So I stepped up to be a member as I currently serve and have been serving on the executive committee as an alternate. Being in the meetings and seeing and understanding the level of detail that we're going into has been greatly informed by the time spent at the Baruch program for us trustees, and getting to know the other trustees that attended from the other systems has if you have a chance to go to the Baruch Trust, please do, whether you have a financial background or not, please do, because in terms of understanding the new
the new aspects of investment and securities and trustees issues. It gives a great handling on it, as well as getting to know other trustees and some of the issues that they deal with. I think overall, all my experience in serving in corporate, marketing, nonprofit, education boards has the experience of leadership as well as being able to work in a group. But I think the biggest hard part, not the biggest part for me, is no matter what I step up and take on to, I make sure that I research, I know, I ask the questions in terms to making decisions. And I like the fact that this executive committee may take on some of the big things, but are also very much about bringing back things and making sure that we're always informing on the full board in terms of the decisions we make. And I just want to continue to be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Cherie. So we have heard from our 3-member volunteers. So at this point, Alex, could we please do a roll call so that folks can indicate who they want for members? So we have Tony, we have Cherie, and we have Effie.
I'm sorry, I thought
Sorry.
Allison was also volunteering for this.
Was Allison, you were a member also, or?
I was member or alternate, yeah.
Right, and that's why when I got to the point with Tony and Allison, I misunderstood. So Allison, forgive me. If you want to take a moment and share with everyone, why it should be you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. And apologies that I'm off camera. I am to pick up my kids from school. So I'm just walking back in the house. I would, I've been sitting as an alternate on the executive committee for since I joined the board in September. In my role in the controller's office, I am the trustee to all 5 of the New York City pension fund systems and sit on the investment committee for the for other systems and have, obviously insight into how the investment process works, and want to be able to, bring that engagement and experience to the executive committee of BERS.
Thank you, Allison. So that actually makes 4. So we have Tony, we have Allison, we have Cherie, we have Effie. So let's try this again. Alex, could you please do a roll call vote, and each trustee, please indicate your 2 choices for executive committee members.
Certainly. Janelle Chacon.
Oh, great. I get to go first. Thanks, Alex.
It's alphabetical.
All right. So, Sheree, obviously, I'm going to stick with one of the BP representative on there. And Effie, I guess. It's a hard one. I would love to choose everyone, but those are my 2.
Lily Chan.
That is so funny. You took the words right out of my mouth. Cherie and Effie.
Marjorie Dienstag.
Cherie and Effie.
Kari Edwards.
Hear me?
Yes, we got you. Thank you, Marjorie.
I'm going with Cherie and Tony.
Thank you. Gregory Faulkner.
Cherie and Tony.
Thank you. Cherie Gibson.
Cherie and Tony.
Thank you. Anthony Giordano. Tony, we can't hear you.
Cherie and some guy named Tony.
Allison Hirsch.
Myself and Cherie.
Thank you. Ruth Maria Kenley.
Cherie and Tony.
Thank you. Donald Nesbitt.
Cherie and Tony.
Thank you. Phoebe Sade Arnold. Hi, if you're speaking, Phoebe, we can't hear you. I'm sorry, unfortunately we still, okay, Cherie Tony, okay, I see that, thank you. I'm recording your vote as Cherie Tony, thank you very much. Kaliri Salas Ramirez,
Cherie and Tony.
thank you. Mahisha Sapp, Mahisha Sapp, I'm sorry, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. We still can't hear you. I don't know if it's possible to type your answer. Otherwise, I'll come back. Sarita Scott.
Cherie and Tony.
Thank you. Thomas Shepard.
I'm going to go with Cherie and Tony as well.
Thank you. Gladys Ward.
Tony and Cherie.
Thank you. Ephraim Zachary.
Effie and Tony.
Thank you. Okay, Chair. So I think if we tally up these votes.
We have 13 votes for Tony. We have 4 votes for Effie. We have 1 vote for Allison. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16 votes for Cherie. So congratulations, Cherie and Tony, as our newest executive committee members. So that would add Effie and Allison to our alternates list. So we got to do this one more again, y'all. And this one is for our 2 alternates. So we have Allison, we have Greg, Kari, and Effie.
We have to put our political spiel in again. I mean,
if you do you want to say something?
No,
I think anyone who didn't speak before probably
anyone who
should say a
didn't
couple
speak,
words.
if you want an opportunity, that would be Greg and Kari.
Yeah, I mean, Greg, do you mind if I go first, or I'll defer to you?
Absolutely, sure, go ahead.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I've spent 25 years of my career in public service, specifically one working with the Comptroller Carl McCall on state investments, as well as being his body person. I was the Vice President of External Affairs for Brookdale Hospital. Prior to that, I was worked for the New York State Senate when our President Obama did the American Recovery Act, and so I was in charge of creating portfolio processes where we invested that money into infrastructure projects. At Brookdale Hospital, I was in charge of the Vital Brooklyn $300 million budget that Governor Cuomo put together, and also sat on the board for asset management of DASNY for hospitals. So I have a long career of public service and putting money in communities that need it and watching the investment grow. And so it would be an honor to be an alternate. I do not have the full capacity to be a member, so I defer and enjoy the members that we did pick, but I think I'd be a wonderful alternate to your program. And like Tony said, it was very exciting to be actually picked for the PEP and BERS board. So thank you. That's my presentation.
Thank you, Kari. I definitely appreciate that. So Greg, you're up.
thank you. I'm actually excited because I remember last year we had to go begging for
Right.
volunteers. So I think this
Come
is
a
a
long
really
way.
a long way, and I'm like smiling. And no matter how it turns out, this is like really great. I had a chance to serve on the executive board the last year as a member. It really gave a lot of insight. There were a lot of opportunities to do good stuff on the executive board, and I think my reason for stepping down is when I want to get some new voices and new involvement, and so I'd be happy to serve as an alternate and a backup for our two full members. But I'm either way, this is a win. I'm really excited about this. So we come a long way. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, so I do want to echo something Greg said because this past year I served on the executive committee, and it was a bit of a challenge getting volunteers, right? So to be in a process right now where we're running like 2 rounds of people that are really interested in doing this is, really, really exciting to me as well. So we have 4 volunteers, and we need to pick 2 of them. So, Alex, could you please let's run with a roll call vote again, please?
Absolutely. Okay, so Janelle Chacon. Again, the candidates are Allison, Greg, Kari, Effie.
That's correct.
So Janelle Chacon.
Yes, first place. Carrie and Effie.
Lily Chan.
Kari and Effie.
Marjorie Dienstag.
Greg and Effie.
Kari Edwards.
Myself and Greg.
Gregory Faulkner.
Carrie and Greg.
Cherie Gibson.
Kari and Greg.
Anthony Giordano.
Oh, I hate this. Kari and Greg.
Thank you. Allison Hirsch.
Myself, and I abstain on the second.
Thank you. Ruth Maria Kenley.
Greg and Kari.
Donald Nesbitt.
Greg and Kari.
Phoebe Sade Arnold. Okay, I have that as Greg and Kari. That is Phoebe's vote. Kaliri Salas Ramirez. Kaliri Salas Ramirez. It looks like Dr. Salas Ramirez has dropped off. Yeah. Okay. Mahisha Sapp. Mahisha Sapp. I'm sorry, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. I'll come back to you at the end. Sarita Scott.
Greg and Kari.
Thank you. Thomas Shepard.
Ooh, I hate these. I'm gonna say Greg and Kari also.
Gladys Ward.
Greg and Carrie.
Ephraim Zachary.
Effie and Greg.
Thank you. Mahisha Sapp, I'm just going to ask again. All right, I think that's all we're going to get for now.
Donald vote?
Tom's vote I recorded as
Donald.
Carrie and Greg. Donald
Yes,
also
I did.
recorded as Carrie and Greg.
Okay, so I have 12 votes each for Greg and Kari. I have 1 vote for Allison and 4 votes for Effie. So congratulations, Greg and Kari, for being our alternate members to the executive committee.
Thank you. And Tony and Sherry, just make sure you're there all the time.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
All right. So just so we know, right? So there's the executive committee, there are the co-chairs, but those aren't the only committees that we have, right? And, you know, the next item on the agenda is actually election of members to the disability committee.
Chair, I'm sorry to
Yes.
interrupt. I just want to make sure that we're clear on who is whose alternate.
Yes.
So we
but
have
we have to do
2
that
members.
too?
Yeah. Well, I don't think it has to go to a vote as long as the principals and the alternates are all in agreement.
Okay.
So we have the principals are
Sheree and Tony.
and the alternates are Kari and Greg. So I think for the purpose of
Yeah,
for the purpose of succession, it's necessary to know who is alternate.
All right, so let's throw that one out there. There's the 4 of y'all. So who want to be who's alternate?
I'll be Tony's alternate.
All right. So
If Sheree will take me, I'll be her alternate.
They're stuck with us. They can't.
Point of clarification.
Yes.
I thought the alternates were at large, so that
That's what I heard too.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So
Yeah.
the alternates have two powers: the power of substitution, in which respect they're at large, and the power of succession. The power of succession just means if someone rotates off the board or the committee, who takes their place. So for the power of succession, we need to know who is alternate. For the power of substitution, they can serve at large.
So I'm going to call Tony every day, and if he picks up the phone, I just go back to bed.
So let's make sure we got this correct. So it's Tony and Greg.
Yeah.
And Sheree and Kari. That sound right, y'all?
Mm-hmm.
All right, very good. So you got that noted, Alex?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
All right. So so like I said a moment ago, we just went through this process for the executive committee and for the co-chairs, right? But you know, the executive committee isn't the only committee. And you know, so the next item on this agenda, on our agenda for tonight, is calendar item number 21, election of members to the disability committee. So may I have a motion to consider, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Greg. May I have a second?
Second, Donald.
Thank you, Donald. So the disability committee meets as required to review applications for disability retirement. Committee then makes recommendations regarding these applications to the full board of trustees. There are 5 members of the disability committee, including the chancellor's designee and both employee members. As with the executive committee, since John, Donald, and the chancellor's designee are automatically members on this committee, each have alternates, we will need 2 additional volunteers and an alternate for those 2 volunteers. Are there any volunteers?
Can I nominate? I'd like to nominate Effie.
Chair,
I second that.
myself. I kind of like the disability committee, so Janelle.
I don't want to delay this more, but can we very briefly know the time commitment involved in this committee?
Yes, of course. So this committee
Nobody wants
meets
to commit themselves to something that they can't live up to.
100%. 100%. This committee meets 5 to 6 times a year. Meetings are approximately 2 hours.
I would like to second Effie's nomination and volunteer myself as his alternate.
I think I'm an alternate on that. Am I an alternate?
So this committee ran until December. This is why it's being reconstituted this January. So for the year 2023.
I got it. Okay.
So is there anyone else interested in being an alternate? So I have Effie and Janelle listed as the members, and I have Tony listed as Effie's alternate. So is there someone that would be interested in being Janelle's alternate?
Marjorie?
Okay, Marjorie, got you. All right. Are there any other nominations or volunteers? All right, so very good. So this one I think is going to be a little easier than the last one, right? Because we have 2 members, 2 alternates, right? So I will just ask everyone, you know,
I move that they be
Acclamation.
elected by acclamation.
okay. So unless there's anyone opposed or any abstentions,
Nope.
are there any opposed or abstentions? All right. So congratulations, Effie and Janelle, for being our newest members to the Disability Committee. And thank you, Tony and Marjorie, for agreeing to serve as alternates. So that means we have formed our executive and disability committees for 2023. So the next item on our agenda is calendar item 22, budget presentation by Daniel Miller and Chithra. So if you may I have a motion to discuss, please.
Oh, Gladys.
Thank you, Gladys. May I have a second?
Seconded by Tony.
Thank you, Tony. So Daniel and Chithra.
Chitra, can you put the presentation, please? There we go. Just an intro of myself. My name's Daniel Miller. I'm BERS Deputy Executive Director. I just began my 19th year at BERS. My first job out of college. I'm a born and raised New Yorker. I was a public school student, kindergarten to high school, and now I'm a public school parent. So the importance of what we do here at BERS and who we represent is not lost on me. So to kick off our fiscal year 24 budget cycle, we thought it was important to look back on the last few budget cycles since our board is new. What we're going to discuss today is our spending, how it compares to another city pension fund of similar size, and the results we have achieved for our members. Next slide, Chitra. Next slide. So in response to directives and priorities from the board, the budget has increased 62% since 2017. 2017 was the first budget of the current BERS leadership of myself and Sandy. That allowed us to increase the staff from 87 to now at 136. The BERS budget is on par with other NYC funds of similar size. This budget increase has resulted in more money in the pockets of our members, upgraded technology, reduced backlogs, and better service. Next slide. Next slide, please. So these are the accomplishments we've had since 2017. It's a big slog. We got a lot done since then. We have $1.5 million in increased benefits to our retirees per year. We had $13 million in back pay to retirees. We've reduced many backlogs in transactions. Loans was reduced by 68%, refunds reduced by 93%, and transfers out were reduced by 70%. Prior service was reduced by 63%, all in the last 6 years. Interest savings per member for prior service buybacks averaged $2,600 per application. 60% of BERS members now receive their first pension check within 30 days after retirement. Prior to 2017, that was at 0%. This is very important because that's the amount of time members have from no pay from work to their first pension check. Velocity, which I'll about later, was completed on time and on budget. We have a new disability center, which we start operating this year. We have a new dedicated call center, online member self-service. We've remodeled 65 Court Street on 16th floor, as well as recently on the first floor. And we've moved to 55 Water Street in our current office here. So BERS has been able to provide members with these improvements by fundamental construction our departments, creating new ones, and upgrading our tech. Next slide, please. So sometimes BERS had its budget compared to PPF, the Police Pension Fund. Although PPF has more retirees than BERS, the two funds have approximately the same number of active members, the second line there on the chart. And it should be noted that active members, not retirees, drive transactions of pension fund. And therefore, active members should be the benchmark comparing the two funds. In addition, BERS has several obligations that are not shared by PPF. Firstly, BERS has 32,000 unenrolled members. That necessitates a significant staffing commitment to outreach and enrollment, whereas PPF, all members are mandated to join. BERS also administers over 20 tier plans, which is 3 at PPF, and we serve 55% part-time membership, as opposed to 0% at PPF. What this does is complicate salary and search calculations and our data management. Also to note, BERS is majority women. Our fund is 70% female. BERS also has a 403B plan, which PPF does not. These factors all contribute to a more complex system to administer. One big difference between us and PPF is the AUM, that last chart. Now, AUM is largely driven by employee salary. Our employees are the lowest paid city employees, so thus they contribute less, and the city contributes less on their behalf to BERS. It's not due to our performance of investments, because BERS has outperformed PPF and the other two city funds for the last 3, 5, and 10-year periods. Next slide, please. So this chart is going to show you how BERS was underfunded compared to PPF. For the 14 years prior to 2017, the BERS budget was only funded on average 54% of the PPF budget. Due to this inequitable lack of funding, BERS remained decades behind the other city funds in the service provided to our members. In the last 6 years, BERS has closed the gap in service to our members. By the way, if you have questions, just jump in while I'm going, please.
Yeah, I do have one. Dan, you said about women, the percentages. Can you outline how much the percentages are on people of color?
BERS membership is 71% people of color. I can send the board a breakdown of what that is after the meeting, but it's over 71%. Any other questions? Next.
Just a quick question too. Following back up on Donald's question, knowing how high a rate of our enrollment is, how does that look in terms of our investments into communities of color? Tony mentioned ETIs earlier. Just understanding how do we invest in communities of color?
And Tony, I'm going to defer to you on that question.
Sorry, I didn't hear that question. Can you just repeat it? Sal.
Yeah, just understanding that the minorities make up the majority of the pensionees, but how does the funds, are they invested into that same portfolio? Do we to MW?
So we have a MW portfolio here at BAM that BERS participates in. Is that what your question is? Like how many men would be invested? Women and minorities?
Yeah, because I mean, looking at your demographics from the earlier slide of who we have as part of our team, as part of our pensions, like I'm just curious to know how are we investing into Black businesses, into Black investment portfolios, into brown investment portfolios.
Okay, this is Allison. Daniel and Tony, if it's okay, I can jump in on this one if it's helpful.
Sure.
So, Carrie, the Bureau of Asset Management has an MWBE and Emerging Manager program. We're actually, and because you're new, you don't have the invite yet, we have a cross-system call and briefing next week on the program. I think it's on Thursday from 12:30 to 2, and I will make sure that all the new trustees get the information. But in November, on November 1st, we put out the first ever public report on our MWBE investments and emerging manager investments. I would say, there's a lot of work to be done. So I encourage you to look at that report, and I will also make sure that gets circulated to the whole Board of Trustees after this call as well, so you can have that information. And it has both system specific, so it has the BERS information, it has all 5 system information, and it's broken down by asset class as well. So you can see we're doing, and then there's also a separate economically targeted investment program, which at the moment focuses primarily on affordable housing development within the 5 boroughs and 5 surrounding counties. And we are in the process of looking at how to expand that to include more investments in addition, local New York City based investments in addition to the mortgage support and affordable housing programs.
So I believe the last numbers we got from BAM, 14% of the managers of the city were emerging managers. Isn't that correct? Or MWBE?
I think it's 16% is MWBE, but I don't have the number in front of me and I don't want to misstate. And then it varies considerably by asset class, so as well. So I will make sure to circulate that report.
I would love to, Daniel, before you continue, I do want to add a little something. Kari, I know one of the conversations that we've been having on the executive committee, like we've really been talking about ESG in terms of investing and what DEI or diversity, equity, and inclusion in investments looks like in that space. And I will say that Greg and I last year have really been pushing hard to have the investments we make look like the people that we invest for. And I know co-chair Nesbitt has really guided, I know me a lot in that when we talk about investments, for example, on the continent, right, of Africa. So we've really had, we've been having a larger conversation about what those investments look like. And I would welcome your input into that discussion. Daniel?
Sure. Also, I believe about 5 years ago, we were about 3% of our AUM was invested in MWBEs. It's about 5.5% now. We also, I think a year and a half ago, tried to add into the IPS a target to invest in MWBEs, but that executive committee did not vote for that to pass. So that's something the board could consider as well.
I just want to say thank you for that, Tom and Daniel, and also Allison. Full disclosure, when I was running for office last year, and Brad and I spoke a lot about the TIs, and so I would love to see that transition go into the small businesses, because to Tom's point, the communities and the unions look like us, and those pieces should be turned back into that. So that's why I was asking, but you guys are doing a great job. I just joined, so I'm just asking.
No, it's totally the right question, and I think Brad is eager and impatient to expand the ATI program. And as if you're able to join the briefing next week on the MWBE program, one of the charges sort of he gave to the Bureau of Asset Management is that by next year's conference in November, we need public asset class by asset class goals that we want to take before the boards to vote on minority investment opportunities that we will hold ourselves accountable to. So it's a really crucially important point that we all, trustees and the investment staff, have to really work together to execute.
Anything else?
That's all you, Daniel.
All right, next slide, please. So per CEM benchmarking, which benchmarks pension funds, BERS does about 30% more transactions than our peers. And that includes PPF. So, but in reality, BERS is even doing even more transactions because our 403Bs transactions not included in that number, since most of our peers do not have 403B. So in comparison to PPF, BERS is more complex, it's staffed for more transactions, and BERS has 15 fewer staff. Next slide. Question?
Nate, if I can just really quick in there, one of the provisions at BERS that the members have an option to is the loan provision from their pension. That I believe, and I'll stand corrected if it's not the case, but I believe the other systems don't have that opportunity. Given the fact that our members are low wage employees, they have been dependent and in a lot of times in need of the loan provision that BERS provides. I could even remember myself as a member having the ability to do that. I mean, I think that drives transactions as well at BERS.
Thank you, Donald. So since 1970, BERS had outsourced much of its core computer processing, payroll management, and operational activities to Prudential. Technology used by Prudential was 1960s mainframe system with no real-time data. Here at BERS, we built multiple systems around Prudential to handle loans, refunds, and pension calculations. But all these systems did not communicate with each other or share data in real time. The other NYCBERS pension funds also use Prudential, but they upgraded from that in the 90s to newer tech. And BERS had that until 2017. See on the screen right now, that's called a HISTIN. That's what BERS staff had to look at to view members' account information. It would only show you data from 1 year. So if you want a retirement, you have to print the length of the person's employment. So if it's 20 years, you had to put 20 of those and compare sheet by sheet across 20 years. Data was not disaggregated. It was all lump sum by month. It was very convoluted and it was difficult for staff to use. Very, very old tech. Any questions? All right, next slide, Chitra. You can go to the next slide, Chitra. I covered that. So in 2017, we launched the Comprehensive Pension Management System, CPMS. It's a fully functional, fully customized, state-of-the-art integrated pension admin system. It replaced Prudential and all the suite study systems. What this now allowed us to do was have all one system that communicated with each other, that staff could see what other units were doing. We would have issues in the past where a member would take a loan, like Donna was saying, but because the system didn't talk to each other, that same member could apply for a pension calculation and that loan would not be deducted from that pension. But CPMS fixed all those issues like that. Next slide. In 2020, we upgraded CPMS to Velocity. It was a major upgrade to correct some shortcomings, to add member self-service functionality, a CRM, call center interactive voice response functionality, automated workflows, and we're now hosted in Amazon Web Services. The last year in our budget, we were paying $4.2 million a year to Prudential. We currently pay $4.5 million CPMS. We get a lot more for not this much money. Next slide. So we also created new departments. So one thing what we didn't have before was data. We didn't own our own data. That was all housed at Prudential. So during CPMS transition, BERS received years of data from Prudential and began receiving payroll files from employers. So what does it allow us to do with seeing that data? We were able to fix an error in pension calculations through an automatic recalculation. Under the old process that took BERS 12 years to do it, we did it in 4 months. And that resulted in that $10 million of back pay to members in one lump sum and an increased benefit of $1.5 million a year. Now it's directly benefiting our retirees. Data and data analytics also help understand the scope of problems with unenrolled members. Prior to CPMS, we didn't have any information on how many members were unenrolled at BERS. For the newer trustees, BERS members are not automatically enrolled in the pension. Unlike teachers, unlike firefighters or police officers who day one on the job, they're in their pension. Our members are not, most of them. So if they don't enroll themselves, they are not a member. What we found happening was that members will come to BERS and say, I'm ready to retire. We'd have to inform them that, I'm sorry, you never joined the pension. So you have to use, some people in the 60s and 70s worked for the city for 30 years, 35 years, and had no pension benefit. So through data analytics and CPMS, it allowed us to kind of get the scope of that problem. And that was 30,000 people. Through that, we worked with the unions to lobby state government to automatically enroll our members into BERS. And this past 3 times, unfortunately, it's been vetoed by the governor also 3 times. But we're also working with outreach to get the members in BERS. Next slide.
So Daniel, with this new governor, I mean, look, that happened to my mom, right? She retired. She worked for the city for 40 years and never enrolled. And they think about it. Is that something that this new governor may be amicable to, or is it something that we got to talk to our legislators about?
Well, I believe it passed unanimously this year in the state legislature, in the House and the Senate. I'm sorry, something in the Senate. So it's good there. Unfortunately, it was vetoed by the governor, this governor.
Yeah, if I can add to that, we are actually going to enter another bill this cycle. We are not giving up. For me, my personal story, I joined the job. I was 18 years old. My sister, who was already working in the school system, said you need to do 2 things: be a union member and join a pension. For me, I said no. I'm 18 years old. I like to have Jordans. I like to be fly. Extra $100 going somewhere is not an option for me. 5 years later, my sister passed away. And seeing the benefit that her children receive while sitting there with my mom at BERS, I said, sign me up today. But I think of that trauma that actually happened in my life, losing my sister, prompted me to do that. I think if that doesn't happen, I may even be like some of the other BERS members, employees of the Department of Education who never joined. And it's a sad case. And so we're going to continue to push. Just another quick example, a few weeks ago, there was a cook in the Bronx in District 10 who on Thursday told her staff she'd be back in on Friday. On Thursday evening, she left the job. She went home on Thursday evening. Her husband found her dead at home. In searching for the family to get an answer and navigating the BERS system, we found out after 27 years of service, her family wasn't receiving anything. She had never joined the pension. For me, this is personal, and so we're going to continue to push. And Kari, to your point, is always a cost factor between the city and the state. I do want to say the controller was actually Brad Lander, controller, actually did a support letter this year. We will be coming back in our efforts. We're thankful for his letter this year, but once we get the bill together, we'll need fiscal note and things of that nature, but we're going to need everybody's support here. Just knowing who we serve here and the importance of people retiring with that dignity is so super important. Another factor, if you're watching health insurance and the issues around health insurance, if our members are not vested in a pension, they don't walk away with any health insurance. All of these are factors and reasons why it's just the right thing to do. And so we're going to need your support as board members in organizing folks around this issue. But thank you, Chair. I'll yield the mic then. But this is something that's personal for me, myself.
To Donna's point, it was in the last fiscal note, it was $18 million that would extra cost to the city to get this bill done. So the support of the council and the mayor would be beneficial for next go around to get that.
I have one quick question, Daniel. So first, Donald, I really do appreciate your story and the stories of our members. And some of this is really heartbreaking, and it's what we are here to try to prevent, right? And so my question, Daniel, is while we are fighting for automatic enrollment, right? Um, how are we, or is it in this presentation, how we're dealing with the outreach to 30,000 unenrolled members? Because I think, you know, there's this big there's this ongoing work that has to happen to make sure that they're all enrolled, whether they are automatically enrolled when they sign up to work, or um, or that we're reaching out to them continuously, or as continuous as we can. And what type of resources in terms of budget are we putting into making sure that all of our members are, or all folks working for the Board of Education who are eligible retirees are in fact signed up?
So it's twofold, Tom. If you remember your first budget you were here for like 2 years ago, I requested 22 extra headcount that year, and the compromise was 10. The 12 that got cut, 6 of them were for outreach. So we have pushed this with the board. Unfortunately, we haven't gotten that through yet. But 2 years ago, and still currently did an outreach effort to this unenrolled population. We got a consultant in to work with on language, create documents, send out flyers, sent out emails, sent out letters with the forms already filled out. It was about an 8% response rate in them signing up. So we can do all we can to outreach to these folks. The problem kind of is what Donald mentioned. Again, these are the lowest paid city employees. A lot of them think they can't afford to do this. You know, we pitched them like, well, you can't afford not to do this, because it's not just the pension. A big part of it is the death benefit. If you're not in BERS and you die in employment, you get no death benefit from the city. And this could be a major benefit to some of our employees that don't make a lot of money. You make $25,000 a year and you get 3 times your pay to your family. That's $65,000 plus your account balance. That's life-changing for that family. So it's a multiple step process to get them in. We're doing the best we can to put them in. And I think actually letters, emails, it's not enough from our experience here. We need boots on the ground going out to schools. We've worked with some of our locals, shop stewards, training them on to recruit these members. So it's multifaceted what we're doing. But really to solve this problem, we need auto enrollment. Studies show you get auto enrollment, about 86% of people stay in the system. 86%. This really will solve the problem. It's not a moral thing, it's also a fiscal thing. These folks retiring without any benefits will be a problem for the city in the long term.
Thank you, Donald. Greg, I see your hand up.
Yeah, Donald, you actually touched on it. Is there any possibility we could create an outreach team that would just spend full time going out into the workplace and having meetings? It's not just a death benefit, but when people don't think about it, when they retire, if you show them this is what it's going to mean for you when you're no longer working and you're now looking for that paycheck and it's only Social Security, you may want to look at having that additional income.
I would love to do that. If the board would like to give more staff to do outreach to the school buildings, I would love that. Unfortunately, right now, we don't have the staff to do outreach for the unenrolled members. Our outreach for the staff we have now is focused on members in BERS, doing seminars for them, retirement sessions, going out to schools. We don't have the manpower to do that right now for the unenrolled.
Well, that's what I mean. Our current, the people who aren't signed up. Is there a way that there could be a plan or something that could come back to us that we could look at and really talk about? Hopefully the governor signs this, but if in the event that they doesn't, some kind of a.
Sure. Our director of implementation, Sally Sandoval, made a presentation about that 2 years ago to the old board. We can do that with this board as well.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful, that we could come up with let's be proactive and at least do what we can, even if it's very minimal. Recruiting somehow that we get people out and, getting a letter and getting stuff is one thing, but getting somebody out who with people and says, let me explain to you why this makes sense and what the consequences are and what it might mean long term. If you've been working, so if you've been working 20 years and you haven't signed up and you're close to retirement, you might want to consider, what that's going to mean when you're no longer working or no longer able to work. I just think we need to, do something. So it'd be great to get a plan or a discussion on this.
I agree.
And Greg, that's a great point because when I was at the hospital, we had that issue with folks who were going to retire. So Daniel, maybe it'll be a smarter investment to get folks who are 15 plus years in, knowing that they're the ones who are going to be most effective, and they're probably a smaller number of, I don't know. So yeah, I'd love to help out with that one too if y'all got time.
So when we did the outreach efforts at the honor roll, we did target it for those that were older and had more service. The problem at the time when we did it was tier 6 was a 10-year vesting. That was a big barrier in the way, especially for our part-time members. Most of them have to work 2 years to get 1 year credit. So if you're 50 and you already got 10 years in, and it's very, very expensive, thousands of dollars to buy that prior service back. And I'm telling you, if you join now, you have to work 20 years. It's really, really hard a lift to do so. But now that tier 6 is going back to a 5-year vest, it might be a little easier.
Yeah. It just might make a difference when you look at it practically and you start to say, wait a minute, when I worked at the city council, I remember people coming in who were totally dependent on a small Social Security benefit, and it just wasn't enough to live on.
Yep, I agree.
And could that be an investment thought process? I mean, is that something we could look at as an investment portal or something?
So I'm glad you guys are asking all these questions. Yep. This is why we're doing this, and why we're starting here looking back, because the new budget is upcoming, and we're going to ask for headcount to do this. So I'm glad to have your support.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. No, I'm glad that it kind of shifted a little bit.
A little bit.
But I appreciate that, right? Because in an organic kind of way, it allows people to understand why a budget is important, right? Like this budget is designed for us to fund the operation of BERS in a way that meets the needs of our members, right? And what we're highlighting in real ways are what the needs of workers are, right? And the benefit of being members of BERS and what that looks like when they retire or something should happen. So no, I definitely appreciate this. So what I am going to do though, Daniel, is I'm going to ask you if there's more to this, if we can
I'll go really, really quickly.
Yeah.
So next slide, Chitra. We created a member communications department as well. Previous to that, if you call it BERS, it will be routed to different units within BERS. So folks have to answer phones as well as do the regular job processing transactions. We created a BERS specific call center, an outreach team for education and recruitment, and we've developed a centralized email and communication and response for BERS. Next slide. Member services, this is the face of BERS. These are the people that when members come in, they see. This is who they think we are. So we've hired additional counselors to decrease wait times. We have remote counseling now. We have online member appointments. We digitized the visit log to see who's coming when, and a bunch of other things. Next slide. Operations. What we did here was we streamlined our workflows, developed SOPMs, and we cut down on our backlogs and got more efficient, and that ends up saving our members money. Next slide. HR. Previously to 2017, HR was very much a kind of rote operation. It wasn't really concerned with employee development, culture, management development. We developed an L&D strategy since 2017 and trained our managers and had in-house leadership development and really did a staff survey to try to really make BERS a place that people want to work and remain at and have people grow here at BERS. Next slide. QA. So as mentioned before, prior to CPMS, Prudential handled all boards payroll. So now we had to create a QA department which intakes about 60 payrolls per month from our various employers. We also created a service review unit that analyzes member employment data to correct it before retirement to streamline calculations. And next slide. I'm going really fast. If you have questions, just jump in. So IT, basically updated our whole IT system. We've reduced redundancy in case things fails. Back up in New Jersey, we have a vote system for the call center, do deployment between DoIT and BERS. We have Citrix for remote work, a data center here at 55 Water Street, and a new coup plan. Next slide. Fiscal ops. So we upgraded an accounting platform, NetSuite. We hired director of procurement and created a procurement unit. This is the last slide. So in closing, I'm going to, oh, not the last slide. So this was our old member waiting area. So if we had overflow, our staff had to wait in the hallway. Well, we'll go back. Oh, sorry. So this is how it used to look at the old office before we remodeled. Not very nice. Staff have to, members have to wait outside. We've upgraded that. Next slide. As we grew and onboarded new employees, you can see how our staff had to sit. It was not very comfortable or practical. Next slide. That was the old office. We remodeled, construction, keep going. That was the new office on 65 Court Street in the 16th floor. You can see the new member waiting area inside. Next slide. This is our offices here now at 55 Water Street. It's a much more comfortable space for staff, more room. We have a lunchroom here on the floor. It's a much nice place to work. Next slide. This is our new medical room here at 55 Water Street. Previously, the DOE did this for us. Now, BERS is taking that responsibility on ourselves, and it's now in our budget. Next slide. This is the new member intake center on the first floor of 65 Court Street. It opened about 2 weeks ago. It saves members having to sign in security at 65 Court Street and take the elevators. They can go right in on the first floor. Next slide. Better view of it, an elevator to get down if they're handicapped. Next slide. That's the counseling office where members go in and get counseling. Next slide. And that's a view of the office. So a budget is not only a fiscal document, it demonstrates what and who we value. It reveals what priorities the city has, and for a long time, BERS members not a priority. We've made necessary adjustments, but also recognize we have more to do. We will remain committed to giving BERS members the best service possible. And I was happy to take any questions if you have any left.
So here's what I would like to do. It is going on 7 p.m. We've been doing this for 3 hours almost. What I would like to ask is if folks have additional questions for Daniel around this issue, if we could make sure that all trustees have Daniel's contact information. And I hope I'm not speaking out of pocket, Daniel, but I think you would probably welcome phone calls from trustees or communication from trustees about this issue and how we can improve our budget moving forward so that we can better serve our members.
Definitely, Tom. The budget is not a number on paper. It has real impact to our members.
Okay. So Greg, I see your hand up. Is that up from before?
Actually, that was prophetic because I actually was taking it down, but I did want to thank Daniel for his work on this.
Yeah.
I know there was a lot, guys, and we've done a lot in the last 6 years at BERS, and it was hard to get that in one presentation.
No, I share Greg's sentiment when I say thank you, for your presentation and for your work. So the next item on Our agenda is calendar item 23, which is adoption of the Disability Committee's recommendation. May I have a motion to consider?
Marjorie.
Thank you, Marjorie. May I have a second, please?
Second, Donald.
Thank you, Donald. On January 9th, Disability Committee met and reviewed 10 applications for disability retirement. The committee voted to make recommendations to the board regarding all 10 applications. Are there any questions from the board? Great. Let's vote. So all in favor of approving calendar item 23, adoption of the Disability Committee's recommendations, please indicate in favor. In favor, Tom.
In favor, Donald.
Aye, Allison.
In favor, Sarita Scott.
In favor, Maria Kenley.
Tony Giordano in favor.
Gladys Water in favor.
Harry Edwards, favor.
All right. Are there any opposed or any abstentions?
I abstain. Effie Zachary, no prior knowledge of the situation.
Thank you, Effie. Are there any other abstentions? Great. So with one abstention and everyone else voting to approve, calendar item 23 is approved. So the next item on our agenda is calendar item 24, amendment to the Audit Committee Charter. Do I have a motion to consider, please?
So,
Thank you, Donald. And was that Greg second? All right. Thank you. Aday, can you tell us about this amendment?
Yes, good evening, everyone. So by this amendment, the board is requested to approve an amendment to the Audit Committee Charter to remove the requirement that the chair of the Audit Committee rotate annually. 2, to state that the election of Audit Committee Chair shall occur at the first committee meeting of the year. 3, to clarify the Audit Committee's responsibilities relating to external auditors and review of financial statements. And 4, to express that the Audit Committee is empowered to review any disagreements between management and internal auditors. Thank you.
Thank you, Aday. Are there any questions from the board?
Hi, Tom and Sarita. I do have a question for the first item. Could someone explain why the proposal to remove the requirement that the chair of the audit committee rotate annually and what it would move to if this were passed?
Can I answer that?
Of course.
Yeah, I'm currently serving as the chair of the audit committee, and the reason for that is at our first meeting, the requirement was that we had to elect a new chair. There wasn't anyone willing to take that responsibility, so we couldn't proceed with the meeting or any of the business. So I agreed to do it on a temporary basis so that we could at least proceed. But, you know, we were really stuck because for a good period of time, we couldn't find it. No one really had the time or the ability to do that. The current chair could have remained, but it would have meant that we wouldn't have been able to proceed with the business. So it just gives us a little bit more latitude so that we're not put in a situation where we wouldn't to proceed with business.
Okay, so the chair wouldn't rotate. Whoever is the chair now would be the chair in perpetuity?
Oh, no, there would be an election. It just means that the incumbent would be allowed to run for another term.
In the current governance or the way that it's set up now, that's not allowed?
No, the incumbent would have to step down and you'd have to have a new person elected, and we couldn't do any business until we did that.
Got
so
it.
Last meeting, the incumbent was willing to run again, but the rules stated that he could not run again, that there had to be a new chair elected. You could not succeed yourself. Wait.
Clarification is so it's a removal of the term limit,
Say it again?
essentially.
Yeah.
It's a removal of the term limit is what we're doing. That's it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Another question, are all four of them together as a package? It's like all or none? I cannot say that I like 1 and 2, but I don't like 3 and 4?
Alex, could you please advise us on that? Do we
There
have
isn't, I don't think there's a strict parliamentary answer to this. You know, I think that if there is desire from the board to adopt some of these and not others, then separate votes can be held, certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally, I'll just say, I 1 and 2, I think actually good governance. I think it's good to rotate chairs and stuff like that. It's unfortunate that nobody stepped up. I think it's also good. I mean, so I would like not to change 1 and 2, but I would like to adopt 3 and 4. So like, I don't know how to vote here. I'm against 1 and 2, but I'm for 3 and 4. What do I do?
So I think, you know, given this chair, I think we can, you know, you could call for separate votes, either on each item or package the items in 2 sets. I don't know whether other trustees also would like to split their votes.
I think that is a good idea just because I'm unsure about the first one.
Okay, so there are 4 items in this um, uh, change to the audit committee charter.
If you can, Tom, really quickly, just run through those 4, just so we're all clear.
Yeah, Ade, can you again go through what each item is?
Yes, so item 1 is to remove the requirement that the chair rotate annually. So what this essentially means, as we already discussed, is that an election will still happen at the beginning of every year, but the current chair will not be precluded from running.
Okay, and the second item?
Item 2 is to clearly state, although implied, we want the charter to expressly state that the election of audit committee chair will happen at the first meeting of every year. This is what we've been doing as a procedure, but it's just not clearly stated in the current charter.
Okay, and then the third item is?
So the third item is to clarify what the audit committee's responsibilities are as it relates to external auditors. So what we currently have in the charter states that the BERS audit committee is responsible for overseeing the work and reviewing the reports of external auditors. But in practice, the city has its audit committee that has those responsibilities.
Okay, and the fourth item?
All right, so the last item is to, again, clearly state that the audit committee has the power to review any disagreements between internal audit and management. The current version of the charter states that the audit committee has the power to do this with external auditors. It just doesn't also state that it can do that with internal. So we wanted to make that clear as well.
Chair Shepherd, I just want to make a comment. So I see all 4 in
the chat.
In the chat, and I just want to, for me, I'm in favor of all 4.
All right. Yeah, I think the reason why this part might slow down is because I too would be in favor of all 4, right? But you have folks that do have some concerns about some and not others. So this is one time, Alex, where I think a roll call vote for these items would be in order, and folks can express which items they agree with and which items they're opposed to.
Certainly, Chair. Happy to help. Let me know when you're ready.
I am ready.
Can everyone see these, or if anyone requires a repeat when their turn comes up on the roll call, just ask me and I'll repeat them for you. So, Janelle Chacon, Janelle, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. Janelle? All right, we'll come back to Janelle. Lily Chan?
Janelle wrote in the chat that she's having technical issues.
Okay, well, we can take her vote by text. Okay, I think Lily has left. Marjorie Dienstag.
Could you repeat the question again? 'Cause I'm
Of
having,
course. So we have these 4 proposed amendments to the Audit Committee charter. And so we're checking for each trustee which of these they support. If you would like,
all
I
4.
can all 4. Okay, understood. Thank you. Kari Edwards.
Yes, I'm in favor of all 4.
Thank you. Gregory Faulkner.
All 4. Yes on all 4.
Thank you. Cherie Gibson. I think Cherie had to leave, right? Okay.
Chair, do we still have a quorum? I'm sorry, Alex, do we still have a quorum?
I think we're at the exact minimum right now. We'll
I just
We'll-
counted 13 quickly, so I think we may be short now.
Oh, okay. Did somebody just drop out again? Okay, let's check that again.
Yeah, it looks like someone just left. I'm counting 13.
Yep.
And Kari says he has to drop very soon.
All right. So if at this point, then I think we're going to have to table everything else and dismiss the meeting.
Yeah.
What, I'm sorry, what's our quorum number?
14.
14.
I have a question, Alex. In terms of quorum, is quorum for those who actually get on the meeting in order to start a meeting, or you have to maintain quorum throughout the meeting?
You have to maintain quorum throughout the meeting. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I asked that question because in some settings, even like membership meetings, you may have quorum at the beginning and then people leave, and there's not a constant count of, the individuals that are out there, especially in large volumes and large crowds. And the meeting normally proceeds and moves on. So I asked that question, but if those are certainly the rules, I would definitely want to abide by those rules. I ask those questions too because even to conclude the meeting, we need an actual vote.
Oh,
those are-
well,
Donald, I think
you
that's
can
accurate,
we can
Donald.
disband the meeting in the absence of a quorum.
Point
Yes.
of
You're not going to
clarification,
have to
though.
stay here for a month.
Yeah, I was concerned. My wife is looking at me like, you need to get off.
I'm holding on as long as I can. So y'all tell me.
Yeah, no, point of clarification. I thought that unless there's an official quorum call, that quorum is established. Once you establish, you're there until someone calls quorum. So I guess ostensibly when someone says, do we have quorum, that's a quorum call, but it would have to be from a member and it would have to be an ask, I thought, in my knowledge of parliamentary procedure.
I think you're right, but somebody actually did. I mean, now we know that formally we know now there's no quorum.
Yeah, a trustee did call.
Yeah.
How many official members do we have here?
13. We need 14.
No, I'm saying how many if everybody showed up, what's our official membership?
27.
27.
27, and we need majority, which makes it at least 14.
Yep.
Do we need the majority of 14 to pass anything? Like if we can make a motion, do we need 14 or
Majority of 14.
No. To pass anything, you need a majority of the vote, right?
a majority of the people present?
Yes.
2 employee votes.
Okay, so
One employee.
there's a couple of things going on here. Wait, let's take it one at a time.
Yeah.
So it just needs a majority, right? So if you have members abstain, it doesn't have to be an absolute a majority even of members present. It just has to be more positive votes than negative if you have abstentions. right? Now, every action of this board also must have at least one vote by an employee trustee, or it cannot go forward. And there are 2 employee trustees serving on this board. That's Donald Nesbitt, who is here, and John Maderick, who's not with us tonight.
Just to clarify, so we have 27, we need 14 for quorum. If we have 15 members and we vote on something and 10 members abstain, 3 members vote for yes, 2 members vote no, even though only 3 members out of the 27 voted yes, that motion or whatever we're voting on passes. Is that my correct understanding?
I don't believe that we've ever had a vote that broke down like that.
I'm exaggerating the example
yeah.
for the purpose of making it clear, because in a lot of other councils, there has to be a majority of people, you know, like meaning that we would need a 14 yeses no matter what we vote on. But that sounds like that is not the
hang
case
on one
here.
second. Hang on one second. So I do have to also make it clear, you know, that as a trustee board, you know, we're not bound by the same rules as a lot of these other spaces, right? So, you know, the rules that govern how we function are very different than rules that would cover even the PEP space, right? Like, so a lot of these spaces function differently, and how that works is defined in many cases in the law. So so I would just say, Alex, I would appreciate just in a very concise kind of way what that clarification is. And at this point, we're actually unable to conduct any business. So
Yeah, so this is correct. This meeting actually has to disband.
Yeah.
We're adjourned already.
Yep. So I guess at this point, this is it.
Motion to adjourn.
Well, we can't even, it's just, it just
automatic.
stops. The meeting just stops. So, I guess I will reach out, and Donald will reach out, try to figure this part out.
Thank you, everyone.
Say good night.
Sounds good.
Have a good night, everyone.
All right,
Good night, everyone. Thanks a lot.
All right.